Now, depending on how you look at it, either a lot has happened in Ozark in the last year, or not much at all has happened in Ozark in the last year. You can't look the other way when crimes are committed. You can't be a part of criminal activity and think that you're going to be immune from the law. So all I'm left with now are a bunch of questions, and they're questions that I think anybody living in the Ozark community needs to be asking. Why wasn't the criminal activity that was discovered by the state auditors investigated by the city's leadership? Why are people who've never been involved with the city government suddenly in leadership positions? Why does the mayor continue to turn a blind eye to criminal activity? Why does Mayor Hall and the city of Ozark give money to undeserving organizations and undeserving individuals when not anyone in the city benefits from how that money is spent? Why does the mayor and the city council continue to break the law even though they have received numerous charges to stop certain activity? Why wasn't the criminal activity that occurred at a city council meeting ever addressed? Why wasn't the criminal activity that occurred at the community center ever addressed? The last two questions, not only should they be asked by everybody in this town, but they're going to lead to some serious ramification for all of the people that just turned a blind eye to it. You can't get away with things like this in 2019. You can't bury stuff like you've been up to for the last year forever. It's all going to come out. When it's all said and done, Ozark is going to be the scourge of the state of Arkansas. There is corruption so deep in Franklin County that it would take a team of lawyers to get to the bottom of it, backed up by a team of accountants with the authority of the federal government. But don't worry, because they're probably already working on it. You know, Ozark's already kind of got a black eye. We're not known for anything outside of this community except a cable TV show about a murdered doctor. And of course, then there's the story about the sheriff who, every time he got drunk, he beat the hell out of somebody and spent his career violating civil rights. Now, if that would have happened in an open and transparent society, he would have spent most of his elder years in prison. Well, not much has changed in Ozark. In fact, the population is still the same as it was in 1980. But it's not 1980 anymore, and you can't sweep stuff under the rug and hide things from people and hope that everything just stays the way it is. It's not going to stay the way it is. It's corrupt here, and people are going to get caught. You know how I know they're going to get caught? Because I personally know of 3 distinct, separate organizations that are investigating the city of Ozark. And it's not just limited to city government. If you've taken a penny from this city, your butthole better be puckered right now, because they're coming for you. And we can't keep doing those things and expect nothing to happen. This city is absolutely headed for front page news because they were given an opportunity to straighten things up, and they've doubled down and they've tripled down, and now laws are being broken that it's so convoluted and dishonest it makes me sick at my stinking stomach. You put your petty bullshit above the rights and protections of the citizens of this town. And when I'm talking about the citizens of this town, I'm talking about the least of these, our children. You put our children out there and you made them vulnerable because you're too stupid or too arrogant, or too stupid and arrogant to step up and do something. I'm angry at this, and I'm not going to let it go. But that's okay. The truth's around the corner, and we can start at the bottom of the petty little laws that are being broken almost daily, all the way up to the big ones that are going to really upset some people. But they have to be addressed. If people will take their heads out of their cell phones for a few minutes and look up and look around, the corruption is just right there in your face. Every night, from the police-sanctioned and Mayor Hall-ordained drag races that we have to tolerate at all hours of the night, up to things that are so disgusting I was reluctant to even talk about them. And every night, just turn the TV off about 8 and listen. Every night, sometimes till 1 o'clock in the morning. Really and truly, that is nothing compared to some of the things that are going on in the city of Ozark. My involvement with city government was never about politics. It was about having a better place to live. If I'm going to live here, I want to live in a town that's free of corruption, where everybody has an equal opportunity to succeed. That's not what we have in Ozark. After the election last year, I thought it was very important that I throw my support behind Mayor Hall. Tens of thousands of dollars have been pissed away for people to just live better, and it did nothing for the citizens of Ozark. It just made these city employees fat in the pocket. Roxie Hall was told about these things all the way back in April, and instead of doing anything about it, they just concocted a way to try to get me out of the room. Here's a real eye-opener. It turns out that people who lie continue to lie. Instead of me telling you what she said, let's just take a listen to what she said the night of the debate.
I will tell you that in February, I went to one of my opponents and I tried to apologize. I tried to tell them why I said what I said and that I was wrong, only to be told, well, I'll accept an apology, but you're going to regret it. Guys, we don't work that way. We all make mistakes when we're wrong, but you don't come into our town and start crucifying and pointing out everything that's wrong.
Well, people that know me know that that's bullshit. People that know Roxie, well, you know that's bullshit too, because if Roxie would lie in a room full of people, she's probably spent her entire life spinning bullshit. Well, things haven't changed. Roxie's still spinning bullshit. I tried to play by the rules, and I was given a swift kick in the butt for playing by the rules. So here we are, nearly a year later, and it's time to come out with the truth and the facts. For whatever reason, people don't like to hear the truth in Ozark, especially the ones that have their hand out behind their back getting money. And it's always been that way. As I said, we can go back to a sheriff who likes to just beat the hell out of people every time he got drunk, or we can talk about the tens of millions of dollars worth of asphalt stretched all over Franklin County that nobody seems to know how it got there. People with money keep certain people in power, and then they just live in this little bubble where they pat each other on the back. So it should come as no surprise that the progeny of all these people who have cheated the citizens of Ozark, Arkansas for decades are right in line to get their fair share through the next generation. It might come as a surprise to you that there's some of the wealthiest people in town get a paycheck from the city of Ozark. What for, you might ask? For retiring from being a volunteer. You can't make this stuff up. If you put in a certain amount of time being a volunteer fireman, when you retire from volunteering, you get $5,000 a year for your pension. Ask the city of Ozark how many people are getting paid a pension for being a retired volunteer. It will boggle your mind. So for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why in the world Roxie Hall would appoint Carol Sneath to be in charge of the A&P Commission. You know, it seems to me that if the people of Ozark wanted a one-term mayor to be in charge of how the city spends its money, then she wouldn't be a one-term mayor. She'd still be in office. But oh no, Roxie appointed her to be in charge of how we spend this money. But it doesn't stop there. Carol Sneath's also on the budget committee so that we can determine how much money gets diverted to who. Now, why is it important that I'm telling you this? As I said, after the election was over, I still wanted to participate in what goes on in the city because I care about this town. This is where I live. I want to end the corruption, and I want everybody in this town to have an equal opportunity, not just a select few. So one night at a council meeting, Miss Hall asked the room if anyone wanted to volunteer their time to be on the budget committee. So I raised my hand that I'd love to be on the budget committee. Well, it was a room full of people. What's she going to look like if she tells her political opponent that I can't be on the budget committee? That lasted a day. I got a phone call the next day saying, you know, Steve, I hate to do this to you, but I need Carol Sneath to be on that budget committee because she's got the experience at knowing how to spend the city's money. I've got experience running corporations. I think I can handle this. I've owned several small businesses myself, plus I've worked in the nonprofit sector, and I've worked for big companies. All of these jobs were management positions. Not only have I been trained in how to deal with employees, but I know where to find an extra dime. I told Ms. Hall that was fine, put Carol Sneath on the budget committee, and I just decided to move on. I wasn't going to participate in anything anymore. They could live in this little bubble they're in, and I could sit back and watch Ozark burn to the ground. Well, here's what happened. The very next meeting rolls around. I'm sitting there, and Roxie reads off the names of the people that are going to be on the budget committee, and she puts my name back on there. After the meeting, she says, I hope that was okay. Again, I'm trying to have a good working relationship with Roxie. I've known her since we were in grade school together. We graduated the same year from Ozark High School. But lo and behold, it only took about 2 meetings before I was asked to leave. So I go to the first budget meeting, and there's people there that I've never seen at any city council meeting ever. But they're on the budget committee. These people were openly hostile to me, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out how I could have pissed somebody off that I've never even met. Well, occasionally, even people who lie and people who don't do things above board and don't respect government transparency, they still have to participate in filling out forms. So these little documents called campaign contribution and expenditure reports, they're very telling. Anyway, what TR and Roxie claim to spend is a little bit short from what I suspect they actually spent, but that's for another video. Right now, all I have to say is Ozark has its own little swamp. So all of you people out there that are conservative or Trump supporters and Pelosi haters, you can appreciate this, because the very same things that you hate and find disgusting in Washington, they're going on here on a little bit smaller scale in those. But as I said, sometimes the paperwork is how we have our transparency. So I used the power of FOIA to find out some information, and it turns out that couple, the Bowmans, that were suddenly put on the budget committee, even though they've never appeared at a single city council meeting that I've ever been to, they contributed to Roxie's campaign. Who was the other contributor? Carol Sneath. Now, I don't know about you, but if we found out that Nancy Pelosi had assigned Carol Sneath and the Bowman couple to run her budget committee, and we, through FOIA, discovered that these 3 people had contributed financially to the campaign of Nancy Pelosi, you'd be pissed off. Just about as pissed off as I am right now. They need to resign. Are you hearing me, Ozark? Are you hearing me, people that are on the budget committee? Are you hearing me, Mayor Hall? Mayor Hall, what you did is disgusting. It is an act of the swamp. It is political cronyism at its finest. It is textbook corruption. Those 2 people, those 3 people, need to be removed from the budget committee. They need to resign now. People of Ozark need to demand it. They paid for you to get elected mayor, and as a political favor, you pay them back to put them on committees to assign where city's money's going to go. And how have they acted so far? Well, that's going to be a video in itself, because the A&P Commission gave more money than it's ever given to any organization in the history of the A&P Commission to someone that doesn't even live in Ozark, Arkansas, doesn't even live in Arkansas at all, and the event was a 38-minute drive out of town at a private property where you had to buy a ticket to participate. This is straight up crony bullshit, and I'm not going to allow it to go on without everybody knowing what happened. The way they did it, though, it might be criminal. And I'm in the process of talking with investigators right now to see if a crime was committed in the way that they funneled money to this activity. This is disgusting, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. And you might think you run the place, but you don't run the place when the federal government gets involved to set your ass straight. Well, as you can see, it's nearly impossible to tell a story in a linear fashion because there's so many things that are connected together. So you got 3 or 4 pieces of stories all in this one. I hope you take the time to think about what you've heard here and take action on it. I'm going to stop here. There's more to come. I don't know how this is all going to filter out, which is coming next, but I'll have a new video real soon. Thanks for watching. Leave me a comment. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Thank you.